Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. Happy belated Easter. In this book, C.S. Lewis goes through a series of theological questions and analyses to lead a person from the point of there is no God to there is a God to Jesus Christ being our Redeemer. This is similar to the path that he went through in his own life because he was an atheist and he became a Christian. I always like reading C.S. Lewis. For me, he is the man with a superpower for breaking things down rationally and then re-explaining them in some interesting, fresh way that I hadn't thought of before. He's very good at it, and this whole book, it's all he does. This is an interesting book in a way too because it's so old. I believe he wrote this sometime in the 1940s and 50s, and it definitely has an old-fashioned style to it. You don't hear these kind of arguments made today. Christianity is so often mocked today that it makes one wonder, why do people believe in this at all? The answer to that is exactly for the reasons that are listed out in this book. And so it's refreshing to hear a old style argument, defense of Christianity and what Christianity is really all about. So there are a few points that stood out to me, some common themes that he talks about, I think, throughout the book. One is the nature of good and evil. We have this Star Wars-like picture of good and evil.
You don't know the power of the dark side.
They're like opposing forces. In the C.S. Lewis version of things, goodness is light and evil is darkness. So the person who follows good is surrounded by light and they can see things as they really are, whereas the person who follows evil is in this hallucinogenic world where they imagine things. They're in darkness, though. They aren't seeing the world as it really is. Tolstoy said, good families are all alike, but bad families are bad in different ways. And Lewis takes the opposite approach to that, because with his view of good being light, goodness is unique, because being good highlights the individuality in people, whereas being bad is being in the darkness and everyone looks the same in the dark. The way that he puts it is good, as it matures, not only becomes more different from evil, it also becomes more different from other good. It's by sacrificing ourselves to Christ is how our individual traits become more pronounced, grow, and that's the Christian message. Also in this book he talks a lot about objective morality. I think that's a strong case that he makes throughout this, that you can try to come up with your own rules of what you think is moral, but it's a bit like the rules of nutrition. You're constrained to the physical nature of your body. You can't decide that candy and ice cream aren't going to make you fat. That's just going to be a natural consequence, and there's no getting around it. In order to be healthy, you need to have a balance of carbs and fats and protein. And whether or not you acknowledge those details doesn't matter. That's what your body needs. That's just the way it is. And it's the same way with the Christian view of the world. Jesus Christ is the objective standard to follow. That's why it's so important for Christians to read the Bible, to study the life of Christ, so they can adhere their lives to that objective standard. I really enjoyed this book. I think it's a great overview of Christianity, and I would recommend it to anyone who doesn't really understand what Christianity is or why millions of people choose to believe it. So, my grade for this, 4.5 stars. If you have any other recommendations, leave them in the comments below.